Lebanon's president has called on army commanders to restore calm in central Beirut, where security forces have clashed with protesters.
Anti-government demonstrations have escalated over the past few days as politicians fail to form a new government in an unprecedented economic crisis.
A bunch of protesters, a group of about 50 or 60 just below where we are now, started to hurl rocks towards the riot police. They responded with more volleys of tear gas just behind us here. That's been happening for the last 3 or 4 hours. This was the culmination today, a day of rage that followed days and days of protests, particularly in the last week, focusing on attacking financial institutions and banks here in Lebanon. It's 94 days since this nationwide demonstration began, targeting the political establishment in Lebanon. For decades, people here have been complaining that the economy has been mismanaged, that the infrastructure of the country is crumbling, that jobs are being lost and salaries are being cut, and they are fed up in their eyes of what they see as rampant corruption. They wanted to see this government and the political leadership of the country removed. And yet, 94 days on, barely anything has happened. The Prime Minister, or former Prime Minister I should say, resigned just a few weeks into these protests. His successor, who was appointed in December, still after 3 weeks hasn't announced his cabinet. The economy is in free fall. People are being capped with the amount of money they can take out of their own bank accounts. They're failing or unable, incapable of paying for basic services and goods in the country, their children's tuition fees, hospital bills. And the fact is that after weeks and weeks of predominantly, overwhelmingly positive, energised, dynamic but peaceful protests, the protest organisers called for a week of wrath, and today has culminated in this day of rage. We've seen water cannon and volley after volley of tear gas being used to try and disperse the protesters. From what I can see in the main square, Martyr Square just behind me, that has now pretty much been cleared. But every 5 or 10 minutes, you're seeing more and more protesters chasing after the riot police and the riot police responding in kind. I think we're in for a long night here in Beirut.